All right, the conversation even goes on behind the camera. Here's the thing, we are back again this morning with Metropol Review. The question is, what are you waking up to this morning and how does it affect the weight of the money in your pocket? That is the question, and that's why we're seated in the studio to crisscross and cut through these headlines so that you understand exactly what they mean to you as a citizen contributing to the economy of Kenya and getting affected by every single thing that happens in the economy. All right, so this morning we opened the Metropol Review from the Metropol Terminal with the first headline: Kenyans are surviving on loans that majority are defaulting on. All right, let's look at this headline and then relate it to the economy and then ask ourselves the question, what is going on?
I think the challenge that we've had is that over time you're pushing, of course, people to go for credit.
Yes.
And the Kenyans are doing that. Mm-hmm. The problem is where they spend the money on. So the issue of default is really because of people are taking loans to spend on consumables.
Yes.
To buy food, to buy cars, to fund weddings, and all those things. And these same loans are being repaid through salaries.
Yes.
So the fact that people are not saving, they're surviving on loans, the default rate will be very high. Because you will expect someone to take a loan to invest, where there is actually income coming out of that. But if you take a loan to buy your dinner or your supper, how are you going to repay that loan?
Yes.
Because there is a lot of volatility in the job market, if you lose your job,
yes,
what happens to the loan that you took? That is where the challenge is. Yes.
All right. Some people will say that this is a challenge that has now been put up by Kenya being among the leading nations, all right, who now have loan services being offered through mobile phones. We have several of them that are available and constantly enticing citizens to take up loans. Is that something that we should also look at, as opposed to asking ourselves the question, where is this money getting spent on?
No, true, that is actually the case, because when you have a tedious process of accessing a loan,
yes,
most of the people will shy away. And look at, of course, their credit ratings. People have low credit ratings. But because there's a lot of competition in the mobile money lending market, people are actually easily accessing their loans through their mobile phones. As opposed to having to go to the bank and, you fill a form and some KYC has to be done for you to be able to get the loan.
Yes.
So that ease of access of these loans is what is putting people in situations whereby you borrow when you actually don't need to borrow.
When you actually don't need to borrow. So the question is this something that we should be wanted as an economy? Should we therefore sort of get into tougher regulations on these available loan avenues in the country? And there is already a bill being tabled of treating these mobile service providers in terms of loan lending as banks so that they get regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. Would that as well solve this issue?
No, I think we have to let technology and innovation do its thing.
Yes. Because
as a country, we can only grow if we allow technology to creep in and, of course, take over like it has done in Kenya. Look at the taxi market. Before Uber and Taxify came into the market, we were having a challenge getting a taxi. But what the mobile phone has managed us to get in that market is very good, and we appreciate that service. So we expect that to also happen in the mobile money lending market. That, of course, these challenges that we have in terms of how those people are managing to collect the loans, how much from that loan portfolio is going as defaulted loans, those are short-term challenges. And I know they are tweaking, they're working on how they can be able to use artificial intelligence to be able to monitor the people who are taking the loans so that they can be able to collect enough information. So let the market be the way it is. Let people borrow. People will get to a level where they feel, no, I don't have to do this.
Yes.
But right now, it's so bad that you will find someone having loans from like 5 or 7 loan apps.
Yes.
Yes.
And the ease at which they're able to get this, you can get one across all platforms because they're also competing for numbers, isn't it? And so they're going to give you these loans.
Yeah, I think what they need to do now going forward is to try and come up with a model,
Yes.
more of a database, like what we have with the CRB,
Yes.
where they can be able to share the data.
Uh-huh.
So that if you have to get a loan, for example, from Tala,
Yes.
Tala can be able to go into the database and
sort of-
see where you have
Yes.
other loans, so that they can be able to analyze your ability to pay.
Yes.
Because with a salary of 10,000 shillings and getting 2 or 3,000 shillings from each app, you're still able to borrow 20 or 30,000. Monies that you're supposed to refund within a month.
Yes.
So is that within your capability to pay? No.
No.
But with that kind of database, I think that can be able to assist the lenders to be able to make the decisions.
And know who can be given the money
Yes.
despite the high numbers of these services in the country.
Yes.
All right, let's just swiftly move on to the next one. Kenyans turn to friends, quite related as well. Kenyans turn to friends, relatives as lenders shy off. All right, this is a CBK survey. Here's the thing: we do know that the bank CEOs have been threatened. You don't give the business people the loans, we're going to invoke, all right, some banking laws that would make you see jail. Here's the thing: is this a viable? We do know that the various sources of revenue collection when you're actually getting into business. But when you look at an economy that already most people are saying is volatile for business,
Yes.
we do know that having money from friends is also a good source, to get business running. But is this good for the economy? Would you say that Kenya is an economy that is run by friends and family?
I hope, I sometimes wish I had such friends and relatives who can be able to get me such money quickly for investment. But when we go back to the current situation that we have in the country,
Yes.
banks have shied away from financing SMEs
Uh-huh.
and entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So, but still, people need to invest in those businesses because you don't have much option. So, other than going to your circle, which you must save so that you can be able to access credit,
Yes.
and also the issue of people having bad credit rating, they actually have no option but to go to their friends
Yes.
to get money. The challenge of borrowing from friends is also the issue of default, because we have issues out here where you get money from your friends and relatives and you're not able to repay.
Yes.
So it's also the same situation that you'll expect in the big lenders. And the other issue that we have is that the micro lenders that we have, the ones that are not under the CBK radar, is they are giving very high percentages in terms of interest. Some are of as high as 200%.
Yes.
Because if someone gives you a loan that you have to repay within a month and it's at the rate of 15%, that's almost 180%
That's almost 180%
per annum.
Yes.
So that kind of, because of the high cost of borrowing, you have sometimes to focus on your friends. But
Yes.
it's not sustainable, that's the issue.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So when you look at this and then say, look at the headlines in the country of the possible places that small businesses can get the money. Circles have been on the spot.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Banks as on a sort of a go slow. Everybody knows that. And so when you look at this, where do the small businesses therefore turn to raise money?
Right now, small businesses are focusing on micro lenders
Yes.
and microfinance institutions,
Uh-huh.
which of course have packaged themselves as pro SMEs or
Yes.
pro entrepreneurs. But again, the issue is accessing the loans, because as I said earlier, for you to be able to get a loan from your circle, you must have saved to some level.
True indeed.
You must be able to get guarantors
Yes.
for that loan.
Uh-huh.
Of course, the interest rates are low, but the issue that we still have as a nation is inability to save.
Yes.
That is the issue.
That's the
Our
issue.
saving culture is very poor.
Yes.
So when you go to the micro lenders, they are very expensive, and half of the time you find that people are defaulting. Other than that, people have no option but to go to the black market, which we call, there are guys who just lend out here.
Yes.
I don't know how they get their money.
Yes.
But also the interest rates are very high. You end up losing your assets. And remember, these people also don't have assets to use as security, because banks also ask for security. Right now, if you have a security and you have good cash flows, a bank can be able to give you a loan.
Yes.
But most small businesses don't have that kind of security. So they have no option than to go for those expensive loans because they need to finance their operations.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's just move on to the next one quickly enough. All right. Here we go. Banks post, now amid all the headlines, now banks post 10% profit rise in 2018, which sort of begs the question, They are protesting of the interest cap laws that are already existing in the country. But beyond those headlines, we still have 10% profit rise in 2018. That surpasses profits recorded in previous years before the cap rate laws. How are we reading into the banking sector, which begs the question, should the laws remain?
Away from the laws, banks became innovative enough in terms of looking for business.
Yes.
So the moment we had interest rate caps, they had to look elsewhere on where they can be able to give out their loans and still be able to get profit. And one of the best customers has been the government.
Yes.
Because the Kenyan government has been heavily borrowing locally. And banks actually now are focused on that. Other now giving loans to the SMEs, they found that as a very good avenue to make profits from, of course, interest. And the other thing that banks did over time was to try and restructure, reduce their branches, reduce the number of staff, and of course embrace technology. Because banks have embraced technology. They're into the mobile money lending business. They're also using agents for deposits and all that thing. So they reduce their staff to a level that they are now able to turn around in terms of profit making. But it still begs the issue as to why do we need banks in the country? Which kind of sector within the economy should the banks be focusing on? That should be the SMEs, not giving loans to the bank.
Not giving loans to the banks, isn't it?
Not giving loans, of course, to the government. So they should be focusing on the SMEs. And that is the kind of discussion that we want to have going forward. That banks are making very good profits, but the profits do not reflect the actual situation in terms of the growth of the economy in the country and the kind of sectors that we expect to be seeing boom in, of course, with the support of the banks.
So now, one of the ways they've been able to defy interest rate controls, somebody would say we've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on in the banking sector. So would you say that it's only the top tier banks in the country, the top three, that are well known, that are sort of contributing the highest to this percentage? Because now, would you say that the smaller banks in the country are sort of not playing to the tune that the top tier banks are playing in terms of their profits? And, all right, do we need so many banks in the country when we have these profit margins?
Of course, the top banks, the tier one banks, of course, are the ones that are making much of the profits. Because when you look at some of the banks are really struggling. And that is why they have opted for mergers, so that they can be able to get some form of synergy in terms of operations. And also microfinance institutions are struggling. I mean, I was reading somewhere and they had a 10% increase in losses.
In just losses.
In losses. So that shows you which sectors of the economy within the banking sector are actually growing. And those are the big banks. So we of course, we need many banks in the country, because what we want to avoid is the kind of monopoly we had back in the days, when for you to open a bank account at a bank like Barclays Bank, you needed a deposit of 100,000. We don't want to go back there. We need to have competition. This is a liberal market. So let the banks come so that they can be able to have products that can be able to fit the economy. But I think that can only be achieved once we do away with the interest rates capping.
That's a good note to move into the next headline. Microlenders, this is it now. This is it. This is it. Microlenders sink into further losses as they lose customers based to mobile lenders, which sort of begs the question. We do know how microlenders behave. They'll come in, sort of advise you and minimize the risk of the SMEs or the enterprises they're putting their money into. So they sort of help you analyze your weak areas, critique your business, and sort of now tell you, if you're at this position, then we can give you this money. Is it okay for us to watch the microlenders that are positioned in the economy sink to losses amid cries of a volatile economy for the SMEs in the country?
Now, the microlenders play a key role, and it will be sad when you see them sinking into losses. Because they are financing key sectors within the economy, especially for growing business. But then again, they also have to try and be innovative enough and face the challenges that are in the market, because the business environment is changing every day. They have to try and adopt to that kind of environment so that they can be able to compete
Yes.
in the market. And because, of course, the micro lenders, because they are not under the central bank radar, they are not deposit taking. So they don't have like savings from those people who borrow that they can be able to use. So half of the time they actually borrow from the banks so that they can be able to give out to those who are taking loans, which is very expensive.
Yes.
But it's up to them now to sit down and look at how they can be able to operate within the kind of environment that we have currently, the business environment, and still make profits. But we need them in the market.
But we need them in the market.
Yes.
So the question is, what sort of businesses are these that the mobile lenders are able to support with the small monies that they're giving to Kenyans, that the main micro lenders are not able to support? What sort of businesses are these that Kenyans are supporting with these small monies from the mobile lenders?
You see, nowadays people are able to get up to 20 or 50,000 shillings from the mobile lending applications, and that is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So when you go
that's a lot of money. To what level of business can it support?
No, the small businesses we have, people selling shoes.
Yes.
Mama Mboga with a kibanda, and probably she needs like 5,000 to be able to get stock.
Yes.
And she can be able to repay within 2 or 3 weeks. Those are the kind of people who have opted for the loans from the mobile phone applications. And the micro lenders have to actually move to that sector.
Sort of move to this level.
Yes, yes.
But so when you look at it therefore critically, that these are the sort of hand to mouth businesses. I will go for the 5,000. I will get my profit. By the end of the day, I'm taking it back.
Yes.
But the sort of market the micro lenders are targeting is that we want to take these businesses to the next level. Growth is good, isn't it?
Yes.
So are Kenyan businesses stuck on this level? Are the majority of Kenyan businesses sort of stuck on this level? Is that why micro lenders are losing?
You're actually right, because when you look at the small businesses, opportunities for growth are very few.
They're very few.
And people are, because of the nature of the business and the setting in terms of ownership, people are focusing on the businesses to just actually feed their families.
Fit the families.
So for the businesses to be able to grow so that they can be able to get more loans and invest and become big farms, it is almost impossible. And probably we have to go back again to the micro lenders and agencies within government that are supposed to be doing capacity building for SMEs to be able to come in and talk to these young people in these businesses and advise them on how they can be able to grow the business.
Grow their businesses.
Yes.
And that would sort of therefore make the role of micro lenders in the economy stand out, isn't it? True. As opposed to talking to these losses. All right, now let's move over to the next one. Relief for traders as courts suspend NEMA's bag ban. NEMA has been on the spot severally. Their policies have been questioned across the country. We do know that they were also involved in the demolition of buildings that was across the country towards in the whole of last year, isn't it?
Yes.
Right now, we're not talking of demolitions, despite us knowing that there was a big list on those demolitions. Nobody's talking about it. Now, they came up with this ban for these bags. Yes, they said we don't need the polythene bags, but then they say now you need woven ones as opposed to the unwoven ones. High Court has listened, traders protested, it was lifted. All right, what sort of role does NEMA play in the business economy in the country?
I think the pressure that we have currently from the government agencies is the push by the president and of course the political players to have these things happen because everybody wants to see success in their ministry. And the challenge of such decisions is what we're experiencing currently, where you make a decision today that you are unsure about tomorrow.
Yes.
And so when NEMA came up with the issue of banning plastic bags, they should have given us an alternative. And this should have been a long standing alternative in terms of that can be able to stand the test of time. But you ban plastic bags, people go ahead and invest in new machines to make the unwoven bags.
Yes.
People go ahead and import bags to sell. Then one morning you say, this is also actually illegal. So do things become illegal in Kenya overnight? That is the challenge.
That's the challenge.
The same questions people were asking when the houses were being demolished.
Yes.
This house that I've built, I actually have all the papers
plus the NEM approval, because we do know that before you build a house in Kenya, you have
Yes.
to get the NEM approval, isn't it?
Yes, how illegal, how did it turn out to be legal overnight?
Yes, overnight.
Those are
now
the challenges.
That I have to take my building down.
Yes. So we need to have policies that can stand the test of time.
Yes.
We don't want people waking up one morning, making boardroom decisions, and not looking at the effect those boardroom decisions have on businesses.
On business. Now that you're talking about the effects, they say this would have seen arresting of importers of these bags, producers and consumers, and then they will say that the ban would have led to mass job losses. How do we translate that, job losses, to these bags in the Kenyan economy?
Now, of course, there will be job losses.
Yes.
If they push for that, because we have manufacturing entities in Kenya that make these bags. They have already gotten raw materials. They have employees, and they are producing and marketing and, of course, selling these products. If you stop that, you're affecting that whole chain.
Yes.
And that is very dangerous for the economy. The best thing that the government, the NEMA, should be able to do is to come in and sit down with these stakeholders and look for a long-term solution. It's not like we're going to die tomorrow if we use the unwoven bags.
Yes.
But if a 6-month period is given and they sit down and agree, this is how we want to go, that can actually be able to work.
That can actually be able to work.
Yes.
So now the final question is this. Let's talk about NEMA and its policies in the country. We do know that they mean good.
Yes.
We are growing economy, so we do need this sort of policies operationalized in the end. So what next for NEMA in terms of trying to sanitize the business economy in the country?
I think they need to hold back and look at the areas which are under their jurisdiction and come up with policies that can be able to work. And then sit down with the stakeholders, because public participation is very important. Sit down with the stakeholders, get their views, come up with an agreeable document, and then give a grace period within which that can be able to operate. So that we don't have cases whereby it is legal today, it is illegal tomorrow. And that has a very big effect on how we operate.
How we operate as a country. All right, over to the next headline. Take to hire more controversial.
Very controversial.
Controversial?
Very.
How do I, as a local citizen, synthesize this?
The first thing I want to share with our viewers is that it is no longer in the country currently. Doctors have no guarantee in terms of employment. It used to be the case back then that once you're through with med school, you have a job. Right now, that is not the case. So if we have doctors in the country, trained in the country, and we know the kind of subsidies that the government gives to medical schools to be able to train these doctors, then we go ahead and say that we actually don't have enough doctors. It's an oxymoron. It's a paradox.
But it's sense. And guess what? Guess what they're placing this headline on? We're now rolling out the universal healthcare program, which they say has more openings, has more areas to tackle for it to be more effective. So you sort of ask yourself the question, is this an excuse? Are we reading into cases of cheap labor? All right? Are we reading into cases of import of labor so we can support this economy? What are we reading into that? Is you might say that the universal healthcare program enough for us to wake up to this headline this morning?
The universal healthcare program is a good program. But then again, when you look at that kind of program, it is beyond just human resource, which is the doctors. It has so many other things that have to be done for us to be able to achieve that. But back to the issue of doctors, these Cuban doctors are not coming in as cheap labor. They're actually very expensive, more expensive than the local doctors. And that is the kind of complaints that we saw from the local doctors, that you're leaving people that you've been trained locally here and bringing in people who are very expensive from outside. As a country, we've lost over 2,000 doctors to the private sector. Some are even working outside the country because of the kind of mistreatment that we give our local doctors. So then you wonder, where is the space locally for us to be able to bring in doctors from outside? There is no space. We need to improve the system from within. If it's expanding our colleges, like we saw Kisii University the other day started a med school, that is what we need to do so that we can be able to churn more local doctors from our universities to be able to support the program.
Some people argue it's better to have locally trained doctors, all right, if we respect the Cuban medical sector, then take our doctors there, let them benchmark, and then come back and sort of replicate what they're doing as opposed to having the Cuban doctors in the country. Is that a viable solution? Would that be a better solution to these headlines that me as a Kenyan citizen sort of struggle to understand?
No, it is viable. It is viable, and we can be able to get there. But I think the kind of arrangements we've had is people getting excited, and as we talked before, it's a country that has no policies.
Yes.
That once you wake up and feel something works, you implement that.
Then you implement that.
Without having to sit down and look at the pros and cons. Because when, again, back to the Cuban doctors, some of them don't understand English.
Yes.
So they need someone to be able to...
training as well, isn't it?
They need someone to be able to translate. So other than them, they actually have to have someone in between. And you lose a lot. You know, I'll want my mother to go to the hospital and talk to a doctor in a language that she understands.
In a language that she understands. And
because some of us cannot be able to explain our problems in English.
Isn't it?
Yes. So importing is not a solution.
Importing is not a solution.
Yes. If we have to import, then we have to look at within East Africa.
Yes.
What can we be able to get from the countries within?
Yes.
Countries that we share language.
Yes.
Not thousands of miles away from Kenya.
All right.
Yes.
Quite emotive on that issue. Kept lifts ban on Nati's butter. This is not the focus though. The focus here should be that we have poor policy execution from KEBS. They've been on the spot time and time. All right?
Yes.
KEBS used to operate by itself in the country. We also now have the Anti-Counterfeit Agency in Kenya that was established on 29th of July 2018. Yes. All right? All right. The only things that KEBS have been able to do is stiffer fines over fake goods. All right? Now, it's estimated that Kenya denied businesses over 100 billion shillings in 2008 due to fake goods. It's also estimated by ACM that 70% of goods that Kenyan use, they're counterfeit.
True.
We have KEBS, which is a strong agency in the country, well supplied, and we have the Anti-Counterfeit Agency, which is also well supplied. What is going on?
I think corruption is what has gotten us to where we are, because without porous borders, which is of course due to the kickbacks that people get, we could not be in this situation that we are.
Yes.
Because when you look at the statistics, it's not just food. We have so many fake mobile phones, DVD players, alcohol, and all those things in the country. But of course, food becomes sensitive because it's something that has a big health risk. So you just wonder, KEBS as an organization, well funded by the government, what have they been doing other than coming up to react from media reports so they can be able to tell us that these goods are banned and these are not banned?
Yes.
They need to work, and there's a multi-agency that was formed, task force by the president, to be able to handle these things. They need to seal the borders. We need to have rules on what we accept as a country and what we don't accept. We must have anti-dumping laws that actually protect the consumer, the local consumer, from such goods. Because we don't want people making goods from China that are actually below standard and then bringing into the country.
Yes.
We want cheap, but we don't want fake things.
We don't want fake things.
Yes.
Okay, let's move over close to the last one on Metropol Review. I think we have it. All right. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, something on the issue of the Natis.
Yes.
Is that as a country we became a lynching mob. That the moment something appears in the media, in social media, we rise up in arms and we want to fight back. That should not be the case.
Yes.
We should be able to give the agencies time to analyze and be able to tell us the truth.
And tell us exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
And I would like to believe that Kenyans sort of have lost the trust when they see these headlines come in from time to time. And probably somebody had this product in their house. Then you lose the trust on anything that this agency is going to tell you, because it's their mandate to actually govern and also crisscross the sort of products that we have in our houses. All right, on that note, here's the thing. You can get more of this conversation on our social media. Go to YouTube, look for Business AM, and then click on Metropol Review. We can talk to you as well. This has been a good morning. So what's going to come next is the big question for today. Where did you put your money in this economy, which most people are calling volatile? Is it volatile? So where do you put your money? That in just a few minutes. Business continues, and here we are talking about the big issue for the day, Investment Monday. This is it. Most people are complaining that Kenya doesn't have a proper business environment for small-scale entrepreneurs and businesses. We've cried about banks being slow to lend money to SMEs in the country. We've cried about policies that are making it not easy for investments to take place in this country. We've cried about there not being money available to put into businesses. So the question is this: with the little that we have in these places of high consumption, where do we put the money in? And even before we ask ourselves the question, where do we put the money in, we need to ask ourselves the question, what is going on in the economy, so that should you therefore decide to get into investments, you know exactly what to expect. So let's chart a course for investments this morning on Business AM, and then after that ask ourselves the question, where is the little that we have going to be placed? All right, and so today we are joined by this gentleman in the studio. I would say I'm a student, so let's get our notebooks out and start learning. Let's put investments into perspective. Thank you very much for coming.
You're most welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Have you had your coffee or water?
Just water. I'm good.
All right. Here's the thing. The government keeps on saying that in our Big Four agenda, we want to make this economy one of the very best, number one, for businesses, because they do understand that Kenya runs in the backdrop, under the backdrop of businesses. And when I say businesses, I mean the smallest businesses. All right. And they also say that we want to make it attractive to investors. All right. So let's therefore look at these two: making it good for businesses and making it look good, attractive for investors. Because all this that we're talking about is just investment, all right? So have they, or are they, making it good for business in this country?
Oh, thank you. I think let's look at this way. Kenya is SME driven. That is a fact. But SME is a space where you have to incubate a startup. Now, for that to happen, two critical issues. One, the policy environment around compliance and control of those businesses. What do I mean? For example, the license regime.
Yes.
How do you license an SME? In terms of the process.
Yes.
How many touch points in terms of government offices do I have to go to be compliant in terms of that I'm good to go in terms of compliance?
Yes.
Number two, how much is it in terms of the actual cost of the licenses and the actual cost of that movement, time-wise and logistic-wise?
Yes.
That is one. That will go to a large extent will affect how many startups make it past the first year.
Yes.
Number two, access to credit. Now, access to credit is very interesting because you cannot legislate access to credit. What do I mean? I'm not talking about interest cap. What I'm talking about is banks are private institutions.
Yes.
Which have private shareholders who want a return at the end of the year.
Yes.
Therefore, the only way you can make them lend to SMEs is to develop monetary policies that drive money towards that direction. Now, recently you heard the CBK said 20% of your funds must go to
SMEs, isn't it?
That's a policy statement.
Yes.
However, if you remember, in 2003, the interest rates were driven down, the rates on T-bills were driven down to about 0.8%. What happened? Banks had no choice than to go out and get people to borrow.
Yes.
Because it was no longer attractive to put money in government paper.
Yes.
What is happening now? Banks, because of the cap on the rate, have taken the easy route, and you cannot blame them. They're in business. The government has appetite. They're doing good rates on the treasury bills.
Yes.
So, if you look at the government debt, which stands at about 5.4 trillion.
6 trillion, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So about 2.7 of that, half of it, is local. 2.7 is foreign.
Yes.
Now, of the domestic 2.7, half of it comes from banks.
Yes.
So that's a very big number, 1.4, 1.5 trillion. That is money starved off the SMEs.
The SMEs.
But you cannot blame them. Between lending an SME and lending government, the answer is obvious.
Then the banks would definitely go to the government, isn't it?
The sovereign risk is clear. So the return is there. They don't have to. And also, even look at the lifting they have to do to get that money. All they have to do is just place the money.
Yes.
There's no process, there's no approvals, it's just place the money.
We have given you the money, so we expect this back.
So it's a path of least resistance.
Yes.
So coming back to our SMEs, so in terms of credit now, they're left to the mercy of now the rest. The predatory lending, where people have come to the market with money. Given that access has become a problem to the banks, then now the SMEs, because you need capital to do whatever you need to do.
Yes.
They're prioritizing access to price.
Yes.
That's why, despite the high price, nobody's making any noise. Because at least there's something. At least there's money.
At least there's some money.
But if that space is expanded and we have more players, what will happen? The price will start coming down. Yeah. So for now, they're at least relieved they have somewhere they can go.
Yes.
You see, so this whole play to me is not a legislation issue. It's more of a monetary policy.
It's a monetary policy issue. So when you explain like that, the question is therefore, is the government trying to tell a different story when it comes to local investments, owing to the fact that they're actually the ones who take the big chunk of the business in the country, isn't it?
You see, for the government, the government needs to do what it's doing. It needs to borrow for whatever infrastructure projects they want to get into. But that borrowing needs to be as external as possible.
Yes.
Let's have a bigger chunk of the money coming from out. If we can have 3/4 or even all of it. If today we externalize this 1.4 to a foreign lender, then this 1.4 becomes immediately available.
Available to the SMEs,
so,
isn't it?
So if the government plays less and less in the local market, then you'll see lending coming up. The same way it happened in 2003, 2004, when government decided to push down.
Yes.
And the only way to push down is when you have less appetite.
Yes.
If you go to auction today and you put 20B and the government only takes 1B, then the price will start coming down.
Yes.
But when you always have a situation whereby everything that is offered is taken, then the price stays up.
Yes. Yeah. So let's talk about therefore this economy being attractive to foreign investments. Here's the thing: we do know that we have a high debt.
Yes.
Now it stands at 5.6, isn't it?
Yes.
One that is really a big headline and also at the minds of many Kenyans. But we haven't been told what this really means. Now, Moody's, an international rating company, they actually downgraded the economy. Once they realized that we are actually at that level, then they said, we are now downgrading you to B2. Here's the thing: we just have the ability to retain a stable outlook, but we have a lot of risks. So when you look at it like this, are we sort of stifling our economy from external investments?
You see, let me say this. Debt per se is not a problem.
Yes.
Debt only becomes a problem when the money that is borrowed is not put to capital projects.
Yes.
Because let's use a very example that is always used all the time, the SGR.
Yes.
If you borrow X amount and put it in SGR, SGR per se will not make a profit. And you should not expect financial returns from an infrastructure project.
Yes.
A road will not make a profit. However, it will make a huge economic profit.
Yes.
What do I mean economic profit? There will be an expansion in economy due to that infrastructure. It is that expansion that we should look at. Because if you expand the economy by 1 or 2% because of a certain, then that 1-2% is what is attributable to this asset. Even if you look around, there are countries that borrow 2 or 3 times their GDP.
Yes.
As we are almost now borrowing our GDP. But
Yes.
to me, the issue is what are we doing with that money?
Yes.
So are we attractive or not attractive? Let me tell you. Yes, we have the ratings, all the rating bodies in the world. But ultimately, when an investor wants to come to Kenya, they'll make their own independent assessment. And while they'll look at those ratings,
Yes.
it will be informed by other. Because don't forget, these are bodies that sit out of Kenya. This country has its own unique dynamics. We have a lot of undocumented business in this country. So what am I saying? People even invest in war-torn countries. There are people who still go to invest Somalia. So whatever rating you give to a place, it only matters what do I, as an investor, foreign investor, what kind of return am I looking at?
Yes.
And what kind of risk am I willing to put up with?
Yes.
It's a risk-reward matrix, period.
Yes.
So to me, yes, they can downgrade us, they can upgrade us.
Yes.
That only comes to effect. In fact, most of the time it plays out like when you're putting up a Eurobond. If you put up a bond in the international market, that rating is very critical.
Yes.
Because they want to know, is this junk bond or is this or is this good paper?
Yes.
But in terms of an investor coming, because Kenya has its own unique attractiveness. Like for example, we probably are the only country, maybe one of the few countries in Africa where we have more human capital than we need.
Yes.
I think today, even if you put an advert and said you wanted a doctor who has done law and has done engineering, you'll probably get people who will apply. There'll be somebody who, or 2, 3 or 3 people who show up.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that are attractive. If you look at the kind of companies that are coming to Kenya and trying to set up from here, especially as a logistical center. Yes, our cost of business doing business may not be as low as we want it.
Yes.
But we cannot ignore that we are a good logistical center.
Yes.
Yes.
So for you, despite the cries and then worries from the public and from a local Mwananchi in terms of there's this debt and then we have all these factors playing within the economy, we still have the ability to attract foreign investors in the country.
Yes.
Okay, let's therefore first move away from this sort of foreign investment outlook and come back.
Yes.
Now we have banks already on a sort of a go slow, you know, due to the cap rates that are happening in the country right now. And so when you look at the places where people can turn to get the money for investments in the country, you probably look at SACCOs. But you do know what? SACCOs have been in headlines for being mismanaged and they're not really a good source now for Kenyans to go for money. Kenyans are running away from SACCOs now. So where does this leave this trader who wants to invest in the country in terms of sources of capital? Are we on a downward trend? Or where do we need to make the turnaround? So now we say, yes, there is money available. Now, one way, the CBK has said, look, if you don't give them money, then we're going to invoke some banking laws and we'll put you in jail. Is that a good starting point to sort of open up credit to the investors in the country?
You see, any policy intervention is either a carrot or a stick.
Yes.
In this case, the CBK has gone the stick way. Why sometimes stick is good to wake you up. You see, you're very right. It's an uphill task for an SME to borrow in this market. In the formal market, by formal market I mean the banking market.
The banking market, that is.
Going to the SACCOs, the SACCOs control probably a good chunk of this economy in terms of deposits.
In terms of deposits.
Yes, they have the management challenges, but they are much easier in terms of getting whatever somebody wants because you just fill a form, get a guarantors, and get your money. But coming back to what you're saying, what we are seeing is that there's a vacuum that is being created, a lacuna that nobody is looking at. Or even the people playing there are not playing there effectively. So what does that mean? It means either some banks will remodel themselves and fill that space.
Yes.
Or somebody will walk in one day here with $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion, and wipe everybody out.
Yes.
Because if they come and model themselves to fit what the SME wants,
Yes,
and unique to this market, and position themselves properly, the same way the mobile apps have changed the game. That person can, and you see, don't forget, if it comes with their own money, they control their price.
yes,
So they can go up. They'll not be subject to this cap. But they can decide to come, if it's their own money, they can come and decide, let's say if they do 9%. They completely disrupt this market.
yes,
But you see, even banks, as currently constituted, can still remodel themselves and meet. So the reason they are not lending to these SMEs is because they can. Because they can afford not to. Why?
Because they can afford not to.
Because there's an easy option.
There's an easy option.
So why don't we
and
take
there's an
out-
open channel
Yes.
that is there for them to take their money.
Yeah, so
all
if
right?
so that 2003, that was closed.
Yes.
And you see what happened.
And this is what happened. It was
Yes.
a good environment
Yes.
for the SMEs in the country.
Yes.
Now, that sort of it takes me to the next sort of conversation point. Microlenders for
Yes.
businesses in the country. There was a time where they used to flourish. Because now, before you could be given money, they
Yes.
will come in, crisscross your business, tell you your weak points, analyze it, and then tell you, you're good. All right, we can sort of support you get this.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, we're going to get a return on our investments, depending on our judgment, your good business.
Yes.
Now we have cases where they're losing out to mobile lenders,
Yes, yes.
where now SMEs are looking for the easy way out. I can just go in, get the money, and if I don't pay, that's okay. I can just sort of suffer the consequences within the lenders. Are we stuck? That's the question that I keep on asking. Are we stuck? Our business is not improving, because if you ask me, what sort of businesses are these that microlenders with their small monies are going to support, and that sort of say that our economy is also sort of stuck at businesses that are sort of hand to mouth? Is that what SMEs now have been left to do?
You see, today, if today you are in the bush there and you got seriously injured,
Yes.
you'll go to a dispensary that you know does not even have what you need,
Yes.
but at least it's better than nothing. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying that for now, it's keeping them going. It's not taking them where they want to go.
Yes.
But at least it gives them a tomorrow. That's why I'm saying that space,
Yes.
there's a vacuum. And that vacuum needs to be filled. And it will not be filled, and you see what will happen. If you look at these apps and the way they're going, I think the banks are waking up to it. And with the kind of deposits they have,
Yes.
right now we have an app which I think we all know about, but I shall not mention it by name, because you can borrow up to 1 million shillings
Yes.
on an app. So it means if you can borrow one, you can borrow two. If you can borrow two, you can borrow three. So if you can increase that space, because we talk about two things: is access
Yes.
and price.
And price.
Access also has in it built in is ease. If I can get my money through my phone, why do I have to walk to a bank?
Yes.
You see, so the fact that we've gone mobile now, it's taking out the brick and mortar banking as we know it.
Yes.
And then now you have the agency. So your bank is next to it. It's next to your kiosk. So it's either next to you, it's on your laptop, it's on your phone, or it's next to your mobile. So you find even you in a year, how many times do you go to your bank? Probably no.
Probably
or probably once.
Probably just once.
Yes. So as we go that way, but now we want to have a situation whereby the SME can be able to be evaluated and given what they need. Now, one of the main problems that we have with SMEs is security. The way our credit is made in Kenya is that they have to have security at the end of the line. Yes, they assess you, they say, fine, you want to do this business, your cash flows are good, they would pay. But what if something goes wrong? You want something to hold. 90% of Kenyans don't have land. So that means 90% of people cannot give land security. So we have to think about these 90% of these people.
Yes.
So we have to, and you see, with SMEs, there are very many models of how you can securitize that whole lending, just using how the money flows. Just follow the money.
Yes.
Yes, and if you follow it properly and secure it properly, you actually don't need this security at this end.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the conversation therefore would say, all right, the promises are here. We will sort of look for ways to get the money and sort of put it somewhere where we can get quick returns.
Yes.
But then, headlines keep on hitting it, surveys keep on hitting it. If you look at the informal manufacturing sector, which is the Jokali sector, which Kenya has been, known to really support and flourish under, guess what? From 2012 through to 2016, they were targeted to make 1.1 jobs, isn't it?
Yes.
But then when you look at what they created, it was 770,000 jobs, which represented only 86% of their target. Guess what? Despite the headlines, then you find that we are failing over this other side. So the question is, yes, but let's talk about investments in the informal sector, which is where most Kenyans would take their money in.
Yes, yes.
And when you look at the manufacturing sector, which is also second in terms of GDP contribution in the country, when they're making these headlines that they've only got 86% as opposed to the 1.1 that they wanted to get, do we see a sort of dichotomous culture in the government's policies where the informal sector, despite the headlines, is still treated as a second go-to place? Can we say that?
I will not speak for government, but sometimes let's look at it this way. We want 1.1 million jobs.
Yes.
So some of them are new, and some of them is the guy who had two employees is supposed to have 3.
Yes.
But now, if this guy is not getting enabled, his space is not growing. If, let's say he's at Jokali, you want him to expand the job, where will this third guy come? You see, we have to have a very, very, very deliberate policy to formalize informal businesses. Now, let's say we want to do, because remember, even these Jokali sheds, at one point, I think in previous regimes, they were formalized. They put sheds for them.
Yes, yes.
So we have to sit, but sometimes also we need to listen to them.
Yes, but but don't we have them getting demolished right now?
I'm getting there.
Yes.
You see, so what I'm saying is, by formalizing, we're saying we accept that we need these people.
Yes.
We know we have to start from there. You see, the same way we demonize border.
Yes.
But we still ride on them.
But we still ride on them.
So why don't we accept we need these people?
Yes.
And let's find a way of harmonizing how we work with them, including legislation, including for, how we treat them, how we stay with them, and how we accept them, so that people don't feel rejected. As you're saying about feeling the second rating.
Yes.
So how do we integrate them into the system? Policies whereby, policies like Buy Kenya, you see, has not been pushed hard enough.
Pushed hard enough.
You see?
Yes.
You see, the other day the president said very, very well, for government, I want Kenyan assembled cars bought. But we need to go further. Because if you look carefully, some of the Jokali stuff you see there, the sofas, the equipment, is what you find in these big shops. But that guy does not get the benefit of that price differential.
Yes.
You see? Because you have got the big capital, you go buy it at whatever small price and come and sell it. So even the part of formalizing involves grouping these people.
Yes.
Into so that they have one voice, number one. Yes. And then they have critical mass. You see, if the Jokali, for example, the one in Kakamkunji were one enterprise. And those models are there. Because part of the problem is that everybody's running their own race.
Yes.
And you can only go so far if you go alone.
If you
want to go far, you must go.
You must go together.
But you see, at that level, government must get involved. And probably the Ministry of Trade and Industry, to just try and see how. I believe and I know there must be policies.
Yes.
The question is, maybe they need to move faster.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's have a look at, because if we're talking about local investments, the only critical level of analysis that a local Mwananchi would look at, will look at which are the top performing sectors in the country.
Yes.
We've spoken about manufacture. We're done and dusted with that. Let's go to agriculture, which has been the leading throughout, all right? That is Kenya for you now, number one. But when you look at the headlines, some of the key sectors in the country that Kenyans would take their money into, they are suffering. Let's look at coffee. 1990s was really good. Now, you cannot talk about the coffee sector, is when they're trying to come up. Let's talk about the sugar industry in the country as well. We've seen the headlines. Now we have where imports are the ones that are actually making the sugar industry sector stay afloat in Kenya. So when you look at this, therefore, and ask yourself the question, which are the left sectors that the Kenyans need to take their money into? And when you look at this imports and the headlines and what the government says is we're okay, I mean, we can just make sugar, we can import if we don't have it, as opposed to not locally producing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Coffee, we can import as locally too, as opposed to locally producing it. So are we sort of turning around and biting ourselves in the backs when we talk about investments in this country? Because agriculture should be the leading, isn't it?
Yes, true.
Yes.
You see, Kenya's backbone is agriculture.
Uh-huh.
Take it or leave it. Now, if you look at commodity by commodity, the story is the same.
Yes.
If you go abroad and buy try and buy some coffee, especially try and buy Kenyan coffee,
Yes.
it's very expensive. Try Kenyan tea, try Kenyan fish when you're out there. So the problem is not at the market,
Yes.
for sure. Now come back home, coffee. Look at the number of people it has to go through before it gets to the market.
Before it gets in the market, isn't it?
So it's a question of how do you get a product to market. Number two, maybe we need to start thinking hard and fast that maybe we're not good at growing all these crops that we grow.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
there's some we need to let go. so maybe we are good at tea and coffee,
Yes.
and maybe not others. I don't want to mention any,
Yes.
but maybe we are not good at others. Maybe
Yes.
that's why they are being imported. But it beholds us what comparative, in which commodities do you have comparative advantage?
Yes.
And they're very clear. You see, like, we're the leading grower of pyrethrum.
Yes, yes.
Why isn't Johnson & Johnson producing insecticide from here?
From this country,
Yes.
isn't it?
Why isn't Nescafe here?
Yes. Why isn't Nescafe here?
You see?
Isn't it?
So those are some of the questions. Do you want to sell our product raw? Or do you want to add value? Because if today we started adding value to all our products, I'm telling you the kind of job creation, the 1.1 would look like a very, very
Look like
small
a
margin.
very
Yes.
small margin.
But now, to anything that involves commodity must involve government.
All right.
Because market left on its own does what it's doing now,
Yes.
where it creates value for people who don't deserve the value.
Yes.
Yes.
I wanna-
And don't forget it's a zero-sum game. As you're taking value here,
Yes.
you're taking it away from the
You're
farmer.
always taking away from the farm as well.
Yes.
I want to ask you the last question because I'm told we only have 1 minute to go.
Okay.
Somebody comes and asks you therefore, sir, tell me where to put my money in 2019, this month. Where?
That's a hard one. You see, for now, I think just play safe.
Play safe.
Yeah, play safe. Because
safe.
you see again, and the question I cannot give you an answer because
Yes.
it depends on your risk appetite.
Yes.
There are guys who want to take high risk.
high
they have
risk
to take-
appetite and
So if
the
you want to
guys
take low
who-
risk,
Yes.
you put it in the bank, you get a small return.
Yes.
If you want to take the high risk, go to the equity market, go to the forex market.
Okay.
Those are the two extremes, and then everything
Yes.
is in between.
And then everything is in between.
Yes.
Guess what? That has been put into proper perspective. All right. This has been Business AM. I know you have questions. Here's the thing. We shall be linking you with him as well. So that now any question that you have for him, we shall throw it to him. So you can talk to him later. He shall definitely be back on Business AM to sort of tell you how to properly invest by analyzing what the economy means to you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
coming.
much.
I would like to have you back again.
Anytime.
All right.
Yes.
This has been Business AM. Guess what? We end Monday. So you have 4 business days. Some of you have 7 business days. But we shall be with you, telling you exactly what you expect, how to expect. And at the end of the day, we shall affect how the weight of the money in your pocket is going to look like. What can I say? Goodbye and good morning.